All right, good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting, board work session for Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. It's 9:03 a.m. My name is Ty Mencher, Chair of the Board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier. Commissioner Rachel Grant, Commissioner Emily Klaus, and Commissioner Carolina Mejia are participating virtually. The meeting is live streamed to the Thurston County YouTube channel. Written public comment may be received up to 2 hours in advance of the meeting and distributed to the Board of County Commissioners. Action may be taken at this meeting. First up is a agenda review, first review of the February 3rd, 2026 business meeting agenda. So if commissioners could pull that forward. We have calling to order at 2 p.m. and a public hearing at 3:30. Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Mejia will begin. Land acknowledgement, approval of agenda, public comment related to agenda items, and county manager update. County manager, any update you're preparing?
It's at this time, but I may have a couple, just highlighting some of the work the departments are doing. And then Chair, if it's okay with you, I'd like to pass over to the clerk just to talk about an item that I don't believe made the official agenda, but will be added. It has to do with the hard work the team is putting forward on the Olympia Court transition to district court. There was an item regarding some cameras, so I'll pass over to the clerk and to give her a bit of lead time. Maybe Sherry, if you wouldn't mind making your way up to the table so we can give an overview, but clerk, please.
Sure, thank you. There is one item to be added to this agenda. It is for security camera installation in Building 1 at the courthouse campus. And this is in support of the integration of district court taking on court services for the city of Olympia.
So there's a resolution that was signed in July of 2018, which requires board approval for offices or departments to purchase or install security cameras. So since we're extending or expanding the camera presence at Building 1, I'm bringing this forward to get permission to do so.
Any questions from the board? Nope, it sounds like, Commissioner Klaus, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just procedurally, wondering, I guess since this is on for next week, this is plenty of time to get it on the agenda, is that right?
Correct. Good procedural question, Commissioner Klaus. We have enough time to notice. In fact, it would have made the agenda, but through no fault to IT, discovering that we had to go through the board to add cameras. Adding cameras is a simple operational thing, but that resolution requires it. We will have a board item to you, if not by the end of the day, first thing tomorrow, and it will be on the official agenda posted with all the notice requirements for the public.
Okay, perfect. When you say that you'll have the board item to us, does that mean that there's not the resolution in the AIS yet? Are we waiting on that?
Right, I think staff have finalized it after the agenda was distributed to the board, so we can provide the AIS item to you.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, no other questions?
Thank you.
So that would be an add to a consent?
Correct, to the consent agenda.
Okay, any commissioner questions on preliminary items before I move to the consent items 1 through 7? Okay, item 1 is Gorgas Open Space Tax Program application.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Open Space Tax Program application. It was, public comment was received at a public hearing on December 16th, and then we had a work session with you all, and we're joined by the Assessor's Office to answer follow-up questions just last week on January 21st. So this is just a formal approval by the board to go ahead and move this application forward.
Any questions here? We had a couple work sessions. Okay, next up is Fairgrounds Evacuation and Agriculture Center WSDA Capital Grant.
Yeah, and apologies for not putting the amount of this grant front and center in the AIS. That will be updated. But this is a $250,000 grant from the Washington State Department of Agriculture. It comes out of their State Fair Capital Grant Program. This is going to be matched by $1.015 million that we're receiving from the federal government, and that comes from their federal community project funds. So in total, these grant funds will be put toward a new 20,000 square foot agricultural evac center on the fairgrounds. And there was a media release issued on December 10th highlighting this project.
Any questions on the WSDA grant? It's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting.
All right, let's go on to item 3. It's emergency services, sole source contract for active shooter incident management, basic train the trainer course.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ben Miller-Todd, Thurston County Emergency Services. This is fitting based on our last conversation about State Homeland Security Program grant funds. This is just a quick reminder that we're one of 5 counties and we're the lead administrative agency for Homeland Security Region 3. Lewis County Emergency Management and Law Enforcement did request funding for C3 Pathways, which is an active shooter course, to be able to train 10 law enforcement officers and 10 firefighters. With that, it was approved in the fiscal year 23 grant. So again, fiscal year 23 hasn't had any language changes, and I wanted to highlight that as well. And also, coming out of the pandemic, the state and the federal government ended up extending a number of these contracts. So it seems odd to still see fiscal year 23 grant funds that are in front of you. However, they did extend it out to July 31st of 2026, which did make Lewis County's project eligible to have 2023 funds applied. This is entirely grant funded, and this is a routine course that's been used in over 60 Washington state jurisdictions, as well as is embedded in Thurston County Medic One's MCI plan in conjunction with the fire agencies. So not only do we use it locally here, it's also being regionally adopted in order to help to define better communication pathways for active shooter events. With that, I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Anything for Ben on item 3? Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thanks.
Public Health and Social Services has a couple of items. First up, resolution of findings and determinations for Lake Lawrence Management District number 26.
Yes, thank you, Jen Freiheit, Director of Public Health and Social Services. And this is a request for the board to move to adopt the resolution of findings and determination to establish the Lake Lawrence Management District number 26 after closing the public hearing on January 20th and then directing staff to draft the resolution of findings and determinations. And if those are adopted, this will take the vote to the property owners of the proposed district to establish the LMD number 26.
Questions? All right, straightforward. 2026 Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG RFP, request for proposals.
Yes, this is a request for the board to move to authorize PHSS to issue a request for proposals for CDBG under the Department of Housing and Urban Development's CDBG program. And these applications will be reviewed by the City of Tumwater City Council prior to presenting to all of you. And the estimated award is $800,000. The application materials will become available on February 6th and remain open through March 20th of 2026. And a bidders conference will be held on February 10th. So this is the next round of funding. Last round was for the South County, now it's City of Tumwater's turn.
So on this one, we don't really have, I mean, we manage it in a way, but like under our interlocal agreement, Tumwater will select their priorities and usually give that the thumbs up. It's just part of that business.
Yep.
Okay, any questions on CDBG? All right, thank you.
Thank you. 2
voucher lists, January 5th and December 29th.
Thank you, Jen.
Any questions from board members on those remaining consent agenda items? All right, then we'll have public comment, which will almost be immediately after the other public comment because there's no department items and community reports. And then we'll have a public hearing set for 2 items. One is to consider amending Thurston County Code Chapter 2.104, Comprehensive Property Management Procedures, Public Works. Matt.
Good morning, County Commissioners, County Manager, Matt Onsman, Thurston County Engineer. I won't go into too much detail because we talked about this at a previous work session. This public hearing is to receive comment regarding a proposed code amendment to Thurston County Code 2.104 regarding comprehensive property management procedures. Staff reviewed county code and will be presenting the code amendments that will provide clarification and consistencies for all county departments selling real and personal property. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I should add that we have not received any comments to date.
Not expecting a flood of people for this one,
Probably not.
but any questions for Matt?
I want to say that this is the type of thing where government is working to try to create process and to create a pathway so that when there is a situation or an opportunity, that we actually have something to follow and it goes faster. So I want to commend you, Matt, as a county engineer, Aaron, continuing this effort. I know that it started even before, it's been a while that we've been working on this. So working this through, this is not the glitz and glamour. This is the infrastructure that allows us to seize opportunities. And also knowing that there is an awareness that there's some land like in Boston Harbor area that would not be considered until there's an update on what's the park?
Post.
The post plan. And so we are keeping that in our viewfinder here because that's direction that the board gave. Staff have not forgotten about it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, County Manager.
Second public hearing is also Public Works related to temporary partial road closure of Sexton Drive Northwest.
Like last time, I'm not gonna go into too much detail on this one. Director Karen Weiss went into quite a bit of detail at the previous work session. Public Works is to receive public comment regarding the proposed temporary partial closure of a portion of Sexton Drive for a period of 10 years. Since 2022, the dead-end portion of Sexton Drive Northwest, north of Steamboat Island Road, has experienced reoccurring issues with illegal dumping and unauthorized RV parking, prompting involvement from the Thurston County Sheriff's Office and Thurston County Public Works Solid Waste Division. Increased cleanup operations and law enforcement responses have created additional workload, operational costs, and safety issues for Thurston County. Public Works will reevaluate the road following the 10-year closure period as a potential property is planned. If a property were to want to develop before that 10 years, we would consider it at that time. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions on this one? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move forward to advisory boards update. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair. We have a couple of items this morning. The first is an application for reappointment for the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District, otherwise known as CAR PFD. The reappointment is for Chris. And my understanding is that all jurisdictions have consensus to bring this reappointment forward to their boards or councils. This reappointment is for a district-wide member on the CAR PFD board, and so it does require action by the cities of Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County.
According to the sheet that you gave us, there are 2 other district-wide vacancies. So it would seem to me that if this person has been there since 2010 and wants to keep serving, we should keep them engaged. Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I saw that. I was wondering for this one, this is the one where Lacey does the recruitment and then they do the recommendations to.
They typically facilitate the recruitment and receiving applications.
Okay.
There have been no other applications received to date.
Yeah, I was surprised to see 2 vacancies on this. I know this one was a topic of conversation before. Do we know when those vacancies happened?
I can get back to you with some more information
That's fine.
and recruitment plan for those two vacancies.
Thank you. I'm with Commissioner Menser on this, since there are two vacancies for that, and this is a reappointment. I'm okay with moving forward.
Any objection to putting Mr. Light forward next week for reappointment? And we'll go to the other jurisdictions. Okay, thumbs up.
Sounds good.
Okay, very good. Let's go on to solid waste.
Thank you. We've received a nomination from the City of Olympia for their representative on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for this year.
Paul Barrett.
Yes.
That's their nomination, so we just usually approve that. So if there's no objection, we put that forward. Thank you. All right. That covers that. Let's go to item 4, 2026-27 Behavioral Health Community Grant Award Recommendations.
Morning, Shaylin, welcome back.
Jerry Freiheit, Director of Public Health and Social Services, and we are here today seeking approval of the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee's recommendation for the 2026-2027 two-year Behavioral Health Community Grant Awards. I will turn it over to Shaylin and drive.
Yeah, all right. So, my name is Shaylin Sowers, Behavioral Health Fund Program Manager. And today we're going to be presenting an overview of the 2026 to 2027 Behavioral Health Community Grants Request for Proposal process, applicants, as well as the recommendations from the Advisory Committee. Forward. So our program releases this community grants opportunity every 2 years. This has the intent to seek innovative behavioral health treatment and support services projects. This includes but is not limited to mental health and or substance use disorder treatment, recovery support services related to treatment such as case management, transportation to and from treatment, and housing assistance. Community grants are a one-time funding opportunity with no promise of future funding, and this RFP is for the 2-year period between January 2026 through December 2027. For this RFP, the board authorized $375,000 total available per year in 2026 and 2027, subject to the county receiving projected revenue. Of this $375,000, $300,000 comes from public health and social services millage funding, and $75,000 comes from treatment sales tax funding. This RFP was publicized broadly via local news and the TST newsletter list, and was open between November 13th and November 30th, 2025. Each applicant organization could submit no more than one proposal for a maximum of $300,000 per year. We received 12 applications totaling over $1.9 million in requested funding per year. And a review panel of Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee members and subject matter experts spent 2 weeks and 1 3-hour session to evaluate applications in the areas listed here. The 3 subject matter experts that participated in this cycle were the same as the last cycle: Jason Bean Mortensen, who's the Care Coordination Director with the Thurston Mason BHASO, Sabrina Craig, who is the Therapeutic Courts Program Manager, and Nathaniel Block, who's the Resource Hub Program Manager. The areas listed here are importance to community. This is looking at, does the project address a community need? And what are the data demonstrating that need? Access and engagement looked at how this project would reduce barriers to the target service population. Project design focused on whether or not the proposal demonstrated whether the project had a clear service model that defines who will provide the services and how, including whether the services are treatment and or recovery support, their staffing model, and anticipated length of service. Impact assessed intended outcomes based on the results-based accountability framework, which is the foundation of our program's performance measures. So it addresses how they will measure quantity, quality, and is anyone better off because they receive the services. Organizational capacity focused on financial controls, grant management experience, and experience providing similar services in the past. And lastly, cost effectiveness. Does the budget align with their proposed services, and what is their plan for sustainability after the grant ends? Because this is a one-time funding opportunity. This slide has a lot of information on it. It has all the applicant organizations organized in descending order of amount requested, and a brief description of the project's focus. I won't spend too much time on this slide. Out of the 12 applicant organizations, 6 of them have been awarded treatment sales tax community grants in the past. And those are indicated by an asterisk, which is kind of hard to see up on the screen, but you should be able to see it on the paper version. Of those ones that have received treatment sales tax funding in the past for community grants is Monarch Children's Advocacy Center, Providence, Catholic Community Services, Interfaith Works, Peer Olympia, and Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship. And the bottom row of the table shows the total amount requested each year, which is that 1.9 million that I mentioned earlier. And because we received great quality applications and the maximum budget is $375,000, these are the key considerations that the review panel deliberated on. First, using public funds as a payer of last resort, ensuring that Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, and other state or federal funds are accessed first, preserving this limited local funding for people and services that cannot be funded elsewhere. Unique and innovative services that are not duplicated in other parts of the local behavioral health system, for which our subject matter experts lent us their great wisdom on this. Additionally, one of the committee's strategic priorities is treatment services for adults experiencing homelessness, as they believe that investments in this area have broad impacts, improving quality of life, supporting engagement in housing and other services, and reducing emergency room and justice system use. And then lastly, amount of funding needed for the project to be effective. So the panel considered several partial funding scenarios that would stretch the funding available without compromising project effectiveness. So with that being said, this table on this last slide shows the committee's funding recommendations in descending order of funding amount. The committee prioritized funding for Catholic Community Services Adult Behavioral Health Project and Interfaith Works mental health support proposals to support treatment for adults experiencing homelessness. And because Catholic Community Services and Interfaith Works proposed larger budget projects, the committee recommended partial funding to allow remaining funds to fully support several smaller budget recovery support projects. This includes equine-assisted peer support for DUI and drug court, family recovery court, and Thrive Court through Heart Strides. And I just wanted to make an important distinction here. This project would expand upon the services that are already currently funded through treatment sales tax through Heart Strides. We currently fund a contract with Heart Strides through juvenile court so that that program can serve just the participants that are in juvenile court, criminal, or civil programs. This would expand it to DUI and drug court, family recovery court, Thrive Court participants. And then next is mental health and education and treatment linkage in middle and high schools through the Olympia, Tumwater, and North Thurston school districts by the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI. And then lastly, restorative justice dialogues for justice impacted youth and adults through Dispute Resolution Center. These recommendations would fully distribute the $375,000 budgeted for this RFP and are estimated to serve approximately 1,000 people annually. If a project does not perform as expected in the first year, the committee recommends revisiting the applicant pool and adjusting funding recommendations for board consideration. All other applicants are recommended to reapply for a future behavioral health community grants opportunity. And in summary, we're asking the board to approve the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee's recommendations on the 2026 and 2027 behavioral health community grant awardees so that we can begin contract development. And I'm happy to help answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
We know
That's a great presentation, by the way. It's all the detail that would
That's a
be.
lot of work.
Is that what you were gonna say?
Yep.
Okay, beat me to it.
Chair and the county manager are like, we think this one.
Any discussion?
Commissioner Grant came off.
Mr. Grant?
No, I just wanted to say, great job. I think this looks great.
Thank you, Commissioner Great. Appreciate it.
Okay, so the Commissioner Mejia.
It's fine. I was just gonna kind of echo, I think, what my teammates have said, but also a huge shout out to the Treatment Advisory Committee. I mean, these were very hard decisions, you know, looking through all the applications. I can imagine that there was a lot of discussion on kind of where to prioritize. So thank you, for all of their hard work, looking through these applications and making these recommendations to the board.
So the decision point is what exactly for us?
So as they are laid out here on the slide, the advisory committee's recommendations, we're requesting that the board authorize us or provide
Direction
Direction
to put
to-
it on
mhm.
agenda for approval?
exactly, because then this will give us the direction to begin the contract development process with those agencies.
So any disagreement on these recommendations going forward?
And because there's work with the contract, for them on the contract development, there's gonna be engagement with these groups, so that's why knowing now if commissioners have any major concerns or any more information will be helpful.
I'm assuming thumbs up unless I hear or see something different. on the board. Okay, Commissioner Klaus, very good. Commissioner Fournier, you're good? All right, you're good to go.
Thanks so much for your
Thanks so
time.
much.
Well done.
Commissioner items, and I think we have a few, so maybe County Manager, do you want to walk us through what you have as a
Sure.
possible list, or Madam Clerk, however you guys want
Yeah,
to
that'd
do
be
it?
great. I'll pass over to the clerk.
Sure, first was a proposed letter of support from Commissioner Mejia to Senator Bateman.
Okay,
Explain this one, Commissioner Mejia.
thank you. So this item is coming back. So I'm not sure if you all remember, a couple of weeks ago, we gave direction to the county manager to basically see if there was funding available to purchase a site currently owned by DNR. So just continuing those conversations, the Housing Authority has demonstrated interest in the site. So this item is a proposed letter of support to Senator Bateman regarding the purchase of the DNR parcel located within the Lacey Urban Growth Area by the Housing Authority. After the board previously directed the county manager to explore whether funding might be available for this site, Crosby from One Drop and I continued conversations with Craig at the Housing Authority, and Senator Bateman indicated her support for the project and requested that an application be submitted, which has now been done by them, along with a request for a letter of support, which is now before you. And so as a reminder, this board has supported this site before in pursuit of federal funding. Despite being designated for growth and well located near existing neighborhoods and transportation, the parcel has remained vacant for decades due to infrastructure constraints. This letter reflects a collaborative effort among local and state partners to pursue public acquisition and long-term planning for future mixed-income housing. And it does not commit the county, but simply affirms our shared interests in thoughtful, coordinated planning to address our region's housing needs. So I'm asking for the board's support to sign this letter and to continue this collaborative work.
Commissioners, if I can add, just to concur with Commissioner Mejia, board has taken action to support this site in the past. Our perspective is the Housing Authority is a great nexus for this site. And so that they have stepped up and looked at it. We appreciate their leadership in this area. And I think it would be good for our region to see additional opportunities with the Housing Authority taking the lead.
I remember when Commissioner Mejia first explained this to me, my response was, why isn't the Housing Authority involved in this? So this is good news from my perspective. What are we asking what does Senator Bateman have to do for us? It's the state has to release DNR to sell it, or what's the ask?
So the ask is actually a funding request to purchase the site that the Housing Authority is.
The Housing Authority is asking for funds.
Yes,
Okay.
and I believe that this falls under CCA funds, and so would not be competing with our request that we have. Senator Bateman was very supportive and you know, made the request that, you know, Housing Authority submit that application for the acquisition. So that's basically it. The funding for the infrastructure would still be a request that the Housing Authority would need to work on. This is just to purchase the site.
the nuance, I guess, that, because I brought up a concern during our legislative session with Deb Munguia, that, you know, the CCA money that's being looked at for a variety of purposes. So what I learned at a salmon recovery, it's funny how all the pieces kind of patched together, but at the Salmon Recovery Council, we had an overview. We always get a really good legislative overview, and they broke the numbers of the CCA down in a way I hadn't seen before. So, you know, like I definitely don't personally want CCA money diverted to like anything under the sun, because that's not what it was about. But the nuance is that the revenue is so strongly outpacing like projection, that there is additional money. Now, again, should that go to, you know, more projects within the bandwidth of CCA? Arguably, but it's at least the case that like money could be diverted to other places without affecting programs and things that are going on, because the money is, you know, it's the one source of revenue for the state that's really just exceeding projection, like beyond anyone's prediction. So that's a good thing, and I understand. I'm a little more understanding seeing those numbers of, with all the different challenges the state's trying to balance, you know, why we would be looking. I mean, ultimately, that money has an arc that will eventually diminish. And so, you know, the fact that we're getting the flush of money now, there's still an argument, I think, that, you know, that doesn't mean we should be diverting it because we're just gonna pay that, we're just gonna pay for that later. But I guess, you know, if this is something the board wants to support, I would go along with that. Any other comments on this letter as something that we would send to Senator Bateman? Is there a board agreement on that? I see thumb.
I move to authorize, what is it? I move to authorize the chair to send this letter up to Senator Bateman on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. Does that work?
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Commissioner Klaus, aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, unanimous, and we'll move forward on that one. Next up.
Thank you. On that one, I will apply electronic signatures and get it back out to you all. Next up is the memo and a proposed draft resolution provided by Commissioner Klaus.
This picks up on where we left last week, I believe. And my understanding was that Commissioner Klaus, well, part of what was in there we moved forward on, but there was as far as the two agenda items, but there were other pieces, and we're kind of mid-discussion there, and Commissioner Grant wasn't able to stay on that meeting, so we just kind of kicked it to this meeting. So Commissioner Klaus, maybe given everything that's happened last week and in the ensuing days, do you want to kind of restate what your ask is on this?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to Amy and the county manager for working to get this on today's agenda. So just to kind of restate where I think we landed last time. So of course, 2 out of the 3 matters that were affected by my memorandum and resolution were on the agenda for last week. So the only item left on this memorandum, or on this, that this resolution would impact, is just the ability to acquire new surveillance technologies that have AI capabilities. So the resolution is just asking that we establish a temporary pause on acquisition or county action related to AI surveillance technologies, pending forthcoming state guidance. And there are a few bills going through the legislature now that would address this topic. So I think Commissioner Grant was present for most of that conversation. until we got to kind of the last piece where I think Commissioner Mincer, you kind of asked me what I wanted to do next, and I asked if we could hold off on taking any formal action until Commissioner Grant could be present. So that is kind of where I think we left it. And of course, anyone's welcome to fill in any gaps if I left anything out.
I think that's what I recollect as well. Any questions or discussion on, so so I did raise a question about the duration. Section 4 of your proposed resolution says the temporary pause shall remain in effect until the effective date of relevant state legislation or further action by the board, whichever occurs first. We don't know for sure if there'll be relevant state legislation. So I was kind of questioning whether that was the right phraseology for that, if we were gonna be considering a temporary pause on this acquisition of equipment. Commissioner Fournier.
I don't know that this is necessary. We took action on 2 of the items, so those are irrelevant. And then we passed a motion just like 2 weeks ago to direct staff to begin research on developing policy regarding any AI or any acquisition of any AI technology. And as it sits, if the county was to go out and anybody in the county was to want to purchase these technologies right now, it would require board approval. We had to approve a single camera's placement just earlier. That's not any AI or anything like that. So I think the protections are in place, and we're already doing the work to develop the AI related policy. And of course, that would need to take in any pending legislation.
Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you. I guess I'll just give like a couple updates on what's been going on. So, you know, just this week, like just in a week, everything's moving by so quickly. It's a short session. So the several bills that were introduced in the session or that were carried over have not gained traction. And if the few that have moved are narrower and more modest in scope than the earlier draft suggested, which definitely illustrates the uncertainty, I think, of relying solely on state actions in the short term. And so, you know, just a short legislative session and just the competing priorities, I think it's going to make it less likely that sweeping AI regulations will be adopted this year. It definitely is a hot topic, but it's a lot of conversations that are going on, and just the nature of them, you know, it's definitely creating a lot of changes. In one of them, 6002, which had a hearing on the 22nd. And, you know, at the hearing, it was ACLU and organizations supporting immigrants, LGBTQ plus community, reproductive rights, digital rights, and human rights organizations testified that the bill needed to strengthen and protect Washingtonians. So instead, the proposed substitute weakens the protections, including increasing the retention time that was originally proposed, and it's been expanded, I think, from a couple days to 21 days. You know, in my hope, it's always like I would wish to see reduce the retention to way less than that, eliminating vendor access to systems. And so I'm just wondering, like, I'm just trying to get like the clarification, I guess, is what I'm seeking on we do this for, you know, we pause. Well, I guess it would be stopping, not acquiring any new technology that contains AI surveillance. I'm wondering, is there anything coming up that is, usually these projects take a while to come in front of the board, and there's a process for that that's kind of laid out. So I'm wondering, I'd make it, the auditor one was, moved several times. And so I'm just,
you're kind
wondering,
of
yeah.
segueing, I was gonna ask county manager and assistant county managers the same question. Is there some, like, if the board adopts a temporary pause on AI-enabled surveillance technologies, is there anything that you think, that you see that's coming up that would be affected by that action of ours?
Not aware of anything.
Yeah.
Okay. And Commissioner Klaus, my question is, like, it says, departments and offices are directed to temporarily pause bringing forward for board approval. So I mean, why would we wanna, if the board is the gatekeeper and we get, like, why would we wanna stop them from bringing it forward? Like, I'd kinda like to know, I'd like to have them bring it forward
The
so I
gate's
can,
already there.
so I can hear what it's about and figure out, like, and learn more about it. Examples, the auditor one, like that one. Now, again, I don't think you agreed, but the majority of the board agreed that what that auditor cameras are gonna do was, the costs outweighed, or the benefits outweighed the costs. If there's gonna be other ones, I'm sure, where that's not true, but I'm just wondering why we would wanna not allow us to hear about stuff that maybe departments or offices think they need. County manager?
Yeah, and I think the same context that we had when we were talking about not allowing offices and departments to bring forth budget requests, we kind of concluded that it's the office's right to come before the Board of County Commissioners, and then the county commissioners can decide then. When it comes to departments, IT will have their finger on the pulse. There's an IT committee which involves all representatives from offices and departments. With the action the board already took, we have flagged that if anything pops up that is AI surveillance, that we would stop and do an e-brief to the board and see if the board would want to do a work session on it as we're working through the board direction, which is to kind of look at that framework and determine how do we move forward. So we're still operating under that former direction the board gave. We're looking to bring some stakeholders, internal stakeholders together to have an internal conversation about where things are at.
So given three things, one is we were only really talking about this legislative session, which is moving fast. Number two, staff doesn't see any project specific project that's actually coming. And three, if it did come, it's gonna be flagged and brought to board for e-brief. I guess Commissioner Klaus, I wanna turn to you. Why do we need to do this? Don't we already have the system in place to protect against the things you're concerned about?
Yeah, thank you. I think that the protections that we're putting in place are good, but I don't think that they are enough. I want to speak to the legislative session piece and certain bills everything's moving really fast and there are changes being proposed at the state level. And Commissioner Mejia brought up the example of Senator Trudeau's Bill 6002. And I think that that's a perfect example of why waiting allows us to talk more about what's going on as a board, and we're watching the state conversations, we're seeing what's happening. Waiting on something, waiting to adopt any ordinances or acquire any new technology doesn't mean that we would just be automatically adopting the same thing that the state, whether the state passes it or not. But if the state passes something, it doesn't mean that we would have to adopt the same thing. It just allows us to kind of see what's going on, see the conversations. Commissioner Mejia brought up the ACLU testified on Bill 6002, and that my understanding, Commissioner Mejia, on what you said, I heard that you would like to see more protections in place, and so that the change from a few days to 21 days seemed like not really the right direction, and I agree with that. But yeah, as far as like the legislative session moving fast, I don't think that really impacts the way that I think that we should approach it here at the county level. I think that pausing and allowing more time is just the safest way to move forward. This really came from a place of wanting to have something enacted at the county level, which Commissioner Mejia and I both clearly care about because we've both been working on different variations of ordinances around this topic, and kind of coming to the realization through several lengthy, multiple hours worth of conversations with different communities about the risks that this really poses. And there's constantly new data coming out, new articles coming out related to the dangers that this type of technology poses. And so waiting just allows us to have more time to kind of absorb what's going on as this technology continues to evolve. And it allows us to see more of the risks that we might not see now. And it doesn't prevent information coming forward in terms of like an e-brief or just like informational type conversations, but it would prevent the board from acquiring any new technologies. So while we can't stop offices from coming forward with information, we can kind of put out that statement by way of resolution, basically saying we're not going to move forward with the acquisition of any of this technology. So it kind of sets the stage for the position that the board is taking now, which is just that we would need a pause to be as cautious as possible. Through my development of this ordinance I've been working on, I really tried to figure out like the safest way that we could go about this as a county, and ultimately just landed in a place of like, there's no safe way we can do this right now as a county. There are too many risks. There's too much that we don't know. And the technology piece is tricky. And we've seen that with our recent conversations with the auditor's office, where different pieces of the technology were explained to us. Some of that detail was in executive session, so I'll be careful how much I talk about that here. But it just seemed very unclear to me, the protections that would be in place with the auditor item. And some of the questions didn't seem to have answers, which is why I kept asking them. And so there's a lot of stuff kind of circulating around this topic that just, I really feel like a pause would be the most prudent way forward. And it would really underscore the fact that the board is trying to take as much caution as we can so that we're not doing things too quickly. So I don't know if that speaks to all three of your components, Commissioner Mensah. I think I tried to hit on all three of them, but yeah, that I don't think that our current process is quite far enough to really truly protect the county from any potential harm. And I think we saw that with the auditor's item as a recent and prevalent example.
Thank you. I have Assistant County Manager Walker.
Yeah, just and we'll send a copy out to the board, but just as a reminder, the county does have a guideline on artificial intelligence, the use of artificial intelligence in Thurston County. It's ITCG 900. So we'll send that out. It also might be helpful, which is what was going to happen when the board gave direction for staff to do the research on this topic. That IT is AI is in a lot of things. If we're just talking about surveillance, that's just one piece, but it's in a lot of things. But we have a guideline in place that has to go through the ITC before it comes forward to the board. Which is why in this case, a piece of that was caught. The IT director reviewed it. We went back to the auditor's office. We talked to the Brandon Weber as well and said, here's the concern that we have about this. Went back and talked to Department of Commerce, so it caught that.
And they had the part that was of a concern removed. So I think that the internal process, and kudos to Sherry Yield, our IT director, who has been a proponent of IT governance for this very reason. There's some safeguards in place.
Commissioner Fournier.
I think I'm just saying the same thing over again. I think this discussion, as staff just said, illustrates that we have safeguards in place. I don't think anyone up here on the board is saying anything different about the fact that, these are concerning technologies and we need to be mindful and we need to be cautious and we need to, we need to figure out our stance and make sure that we've got safeguards in place. But we have safeguards in place. There's none of this that moves forward without a public process and without discussion, just as we saw with the auditor's office's proposal. That was something that was considered, and it was something that the board was ultimately comfortable with and weighing the pros and cons on. So the safeguards are there. And I think if anyone is saying otherwise, that's a false narrative. This technology cannot find a home in Thurston County without a tremendous amount of process and then a final board approval. Nothing's sneaking its way in. And to say we need to pause discussions on it, I don't get that. I think we need to be talking about it. We need to be figuring this out and planning for it. And we need to make sure that staff know that they should be and can be doing the research and bringing forward, new practices for us to consider. So, I think we've done the work. I think we took the motion to already direct that work to be done. There's going to be further discussions, but to pass a resolution that says, "Thou shalt not speak of AI. Thou shalt not propose, any new concepts," is sticking your head in the sand. We have to be talking about these things.
Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you, sir. I'm also wondering about, I guess, the timing of right? So we have a proposed resolution by Commissioner Klaus, which will need to be reviewed by both staff and legal. And then just the timing of that, how long is it taking, I guess, for items like this to be worked right now through our process?
Well, we'd want to give, and I believe Commissioner Klaus has sent a version to the PAO's office, but we'd want to give them notice that we need them to review it to prepare it for board consideration. Then it would need to be brought forward as an AIS. The normal AIS process takes about 3 weeks, and you include a couple weeks for PAO to have time to review. We're looking about possibly 5 weeks.
Well, also, it would have to be not just our PAO's office, the prosecutor's office, but also Sherry from IT.
Correct.
And so, okay, so then this would.
We'd want to also probably, since it has to do with the IT subcommittee, we just would want to review it with them as well.
With the ITC subcommittee, so it would just take.
Take several weeks.
Several weeks for us.
Say longer.
Yeah.
So we would kind of be at the end of session by the time we're going to consider this.
Possibly.
Commissioner Klaus.
Thank you. So I want to, again, I'm going to ask the chair to please keep certain comments in check. I asked the same thing of you last week. While we're on the record, I think it's inappropriate to be making gross mischaracterizations of what we're looking at and what's on the floor, such as "thou shalt not speak of AI," which is nowhere in the resolution, nor is it anything that's been suggested. So, Chair Menser, if you could please keep comments in check that are not relevant or just simply false, I would really appreciate that.
I would have to say as a point, that's a matter of argumentative rhetoric, which I think is not, and it's not insulting or inappropriate or violative of any of the code of conduct that I'm aware of. So I would not be interceding for a comment like what you have outlined. I don't think that would be appropriate for me to do.
Okay, well, I think all of us.
And there was no suggestion that was literal language. It was making a point, which is what speakers and persuaders and politicians do. And I think it was well within the bounds.
Okay, well, if I'm not going to sit here and argue about it, if you disagree, that's fine. But it's important, I think, for us to all keep in mind the fact that anything that we say will be quoted and could be put in the newspaper. And if someone's not listening and getting the full context, they could very well believe that that's literal. So just hoping that we can all be mindful of that. As far as the timing goes, I understand that in most cases, something like this could take several weeks to go through the process. And, I would ask that we kind of treat this with the sense of urgency that I think it deserves. And I'd be willing to sit down with the chair to talk about different like nuanced language changes, I think that it's a good idea to be more definitive on the date. I took that note that when you mentioned that last time. I think the comment you made last time was that you'd be more comfortable if it said, as an example, like April 1st instead of early April 2026. And I think that's very appropriate. So I'd be more than willing to change that to make it a little bit more solid. And if there's anything else in here that seems unclear to commissioners or staff even, I'd be happy to look at that as well. And then of course, knowing that we need to send it through our PAO's office makes sense. They have received a copy of this and I don't know what their capacity has been to review it, but I have spoken, you know, we all have our one-on-ones with our fellow elected officials, and I've spoken with Prosecutor Thunheim about this over the last few months, just my concept, and more recently I've sent him and his team a copy of the resolution language, so there's a good chance that they may have already been able to take a look at that. So yeah, as far as timing goes, I would hope that we could maybe get this through sooner than 5 or 6 plus weeks, just given the sense of urgency around this.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this item? There's no motion on the floor.
I can make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to authorize the, well, actually, I guess before I make a motion, my question, if anyone wants to answer it, would be, is the board more inclined to have the nuances of the language worked out between, like, say, the chair and I, since, you know, some language changes were proposed that I agree with, or would it be better to put this through the process of going directly through staff and the PAO? And I understand we have the technology committee as well. That could be a component here. So I guess that would kind of help me with the motion language.
Commissioner Mejia?
I guess I'll just say that I'm really not kind of understanding, and then just given the time restraints with staff's time, the ITC committee, our PAO's office, I'm just not, and then the changes, you know, I'm just not supportive of it right now, and we've heard that there's nothing else that's coming down the pipeline at this time, so I guess I'll just kind of lay it out there.
Commissioner Fournier?
I think we've already taken the action. We passed a motion 2 weeks ago to direct staff to develop and work on and research relevant AI policies that we would then consider. So that's been taken. I think that this is trying to reframe the way we're discussing things, and I do think that this frames it in a false narrative, and that's it. I do feel that. When we've heard from staff, we've heard from other commissioners, we've heard across the board that we keep saying the safeguards are in place, and you know, we're reassuring the public that no new AI technology can be adopted without public process. We're reassuring that those safeguards are in place. It's almost like that's not being heard. It's like we have to keep saying that. The safeguards are already there. The gate is already built. So so I don't think this is just duplicative of the motion that Commissioner Mejia proffered 2 weeks ago that we're already working on. I think it's duplicative, but then it also puts it in a new light because it puts it under this this false narrative that those safeguards aren't there, and I think that's fear mongering, and I just don't like that, because there is no new AI technology being adopted without public process and without a vote of the commissioners. We've heard that, and that's it.
So I just want to advance the discussion. If Commissioner Klaus had questions about some technicalities, if it were to move forward, I guess at a base level, if she puts forward, is there going to be a second to a motion to advance this resolution in some form or other? If not, we can move on.
I'll second it.
Okay, then Commissioner Klaus, can you state a motion that then, you know, we'll confirm that Commissioner Grant is seconding, and we'll go to discussion on that.
Yeah, let's see. Let me think about this for just a second. Because I'm trying to take into consideration my seatmates' concerns. I definitely hear the points being made and don't disagree with all of it. I just think that being as cautious as possible is the right way to go forward with this. And so, let's see. I think. So I guess the motion would. I have a question real quick. How often does the technology committee meet? Is it just as needed when items come up, or do they meet regularly?
I think we meet every other month, but let me check that real quick.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm not sure, like, in terms of a motion, I don't know how much to include on timing versus just a straightforward, like, some sort of motion to just push this through the process. But I want to take into consideration everything that's been raised by all of my seatmates. Commissioner Mejia brought up, the fact that we should run this through the technology committee. And I don't know that I feel that would be necessary, because like it's tangentially related to the work that they do when they're vetting different contracts and things. But if they meet every other month or, not very frequently, then I don't think that would be something that we would need to have as part of this process. But I guess in terms of a motion, I would say, so I move to authorize the chair and myself to work together to finalize resolution language and bring it forward for board approval.
A second.
Okay, discussion on this motion. I had a lot already, but if there's anything further before we vote on it.
I'll say something. So I'm phrasing the motion in such a way that hopefully allows my seatmates to see that I'm trying to be as collaborative as possible with this, by working with the chair to kind of finalize language given the comments that we've heard across the board. So I'm hoping that, you all can see I'm trying to be collaborative. I do think that this is a sense of urgency, and even if we don't see things coming down the pipeline right now, this would set the stage for anything that could potentially come forward and allow us to have these conversations in a meaningful way. And I think that the chair made some great suggestions, so I'm really hopeful that we could, just respect the fact that this does require the utmost caution as we move forward. And I think that me and the chair together could bring something forward that makes it a little bit tighter and more clear. So I hope that the board will allow for that opportunity.
Mr. Fournier.
I believe that motion is overly vague, and it's completely unnecessary. There's nothing that stops any two commissioners from getting together and working on a resolution or working on an ordinance or working on anything. So it's unnecessary, and then it's overly vague, and it kind of gives the impression that there's board direction to develop a thing that isn't at all defined. Meanwhile, we've already given staff direction to begin work on developing AI policies. So does that supersede that? Does that pause the staff work? Does that authorize the chair and the other commissioner authority to direct staff and how they develop that ordinance or those policies? There's no real motion on the table here.
Mr. Klaus.
Yeah, so some of the questions you're asking, I think, could be answered if you go back and watch the conversation we had last week. This would not pause the staff work on the ordinance that Commissioner Mejia put forward, or the version of the ordinance that I put forward to staff that I think either has circulated or will be circulating soon. So commissioners can take a look at that. But this doesn't pause any sort of work that staff is doing. It would just pause the adoption of any such ordinance if that adoption proposal were to come forward before we have all the information that I believe we need, which is laid out in my memorandum.
Mr. Commissioner Fournier.
Again, I think this is overly vague. Last week, the suggestion was made when Commissioner Mejia proposed the motion to direct staff. It was said, hey, Commissioner Klaus, we would love it if you and Commissioner Mejia would touch base and get together and work on this and come up with some things collaboratively. No motion was needed to encourage you to both do that. This is essentially the same thing where it's like, hey, okay, get together with the chair and try to work on something that the board appreciates and can adopt. But there's no motion needed for that. That can be done independently. I wouldn't want to give the false impression of some type of direction given and then assumptions to be made. I also can't assume within your motion that it allows staff to continue, even if that was discussed in a separate conversation in a separate meeting a week ago. That's just presumptive. This motion's too vague. It's a no for me, but I certainly encourage the work to continue.
I'll just pipe up. I don't really like the form of the motion either. I don't know that as chair, I really have any particular role. I mean, Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Klaus have been working on this. Commissioner Grant wants to second the motion, so maybe she's a better partner to work on some fine tuning, but I don't know. I feel pretty removed from this issue. Part of why I want to keep hearing about this stuff is kind of what Commissioner Fournier said. Like, I'm continuing to learn about this. I learned a lot in the auditor discussion, and I would learn more as other specific proposed applications came before the board, and I could sort of weigh them. But I don't know that I'm the right person to work on. I don't hear that there's a details that if they were just wordsmith would get a majority of the board to vote for this. So I don't know that I have a role here that is being proposed that makes any sense to me. Commissioner Grant?
Commissioner Klaus can go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Commissioner Klaus, I didn't see it was first.
Thank you, that's okay. Yeah, I actually, I'm inclined to agree with you, Chair. And if you feel removed from this and to the point where you don't think that would be valuable, then I certainly want to, not only take that into consideration, but I agree with that. So I'd be willing to amend my motion to make it more definitive. If that's kind of what I'm hearing from the board, is that there's not going to be support for the motion that's on the table now. I do want to say, in terms of, safeguards being in place, that's something I'm hearing that some board members feel those safeguards already exist. I think a perfect example of why we need enforceable standards moving forward, including this procedural pause, which would be an enforceable standard, is that, like we heard at the meeting last week, board members have not had the opportunity to look at the vendor agreement between the county and the vendor that would be providing the equipment that would be used for the auditor's office. And that right there, it says a lot. The fact that there was one component taken out of the language of the grant agreement between Commerce and the county does not necessarily mean that the component that was discussed that was of concern is going to be taken out of the capability of the tool itself. And that's pretty terrifying to me, especially as we've seen vendors that operate this kind of equipment just kind of going around whatever agreements they sign. So that, to me, makes it clear to me that there are not safeguards in place that actually will prevent potentially harmful actions from being taken at this time. So I'd be willing to amend the motion, absolutely, but I kind of want to hear what Commissioner Grant wants to say. But yeah, no, I hear the points being raised by my seatmates, and I'm definitely willing to make the motion more definitive.
Commissioner Grant.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I want to say, but I think that, I would be more inclined, and I would just say this, more in discussion with all of you, that I'd be more inclined for us to kind of take this motion off the table and for the work to continue with the IT and with the group that's working on the motion. I can see it going both ways. I also understand where Emily is coming from, or Commissioner Klaus is coming from, as far as, you know, we're making a statement to say this is really important. This is work that we want to say that we're paying attention to, and that we don't want any of these things. We want safeguards in place. And so I'm willing to support Emily in a motion if she's got one, but I would recommend that we pull the motion off the table and either come up with something for another time, or continue with collaborating as kind of a team to work on an overall policy.
Which I think we, 2 weeks ago, directed staff to do. So, I mean, I kind of feel like we're circling back. Commissioner Mejia, your hand up is up. No? Okay. There's no motion on the table. We have other agenda items. Commissioner Klaus.
Yeah, so I guess, I don't really quite know where to go from here. If the board's not willing to support a resolution that allows for a pause for us to be responsible in what we do moving forward, I just don't understand that. But I do think that the motion that was passed that allows staff to work on the ordinance Commissioner Mejia brought forward is not really impacted by this, which I've, kind of stated, but I also would really like to see what staff brings back and the enforceability of the ordinance that was brought forward last time. So there is a motion actually on the table and a second, but I'm going to amend my motion. So I'm going to move that the board authorizes staff to work with the PAO's office to finalize the resolution on the floor and bring back for final approval.
It's a totally different motion.
That's why it's an amendment.
That's not how amendments work.
So, well, you can amend the original motion. You can withdraw your motion if it's withdrawn by this, if it's, if that's acceptable to your person who seconded it. And what exactly are you trying to do, Commissioner Klaus?
So the amendment would make it more definitive. So me and you aren't working together to wordsmith this document, but the board would be moving it forward to staff to work with the PAO to finalize it and bring it back for our approval.
To move your resolution forward to staff and PAO.
Yes.
Can the motion please be restated, the amended motion?
Was there a second to the amended motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have amended the motion. I mean,
this is an improper motion. This is, you can't, that's not amending the original motion. That's just proposing a different motion. So we have a motion on the floor that needs to be rescinded, and then you need to take another step to propose that whole new motion. I believe. I would ask the clerk. Is that?
So this amendment, the intention is that it changes the direction from me and Commissioner Mensah working on something and bringing it back for approval to staff and PAO working on it and bringing it back for approval. I don't see it as a separate motion. If the board wants me to make it a separate motion, I guess that's fine. I don't really care, but that's the intention of the amendment.
Clerk, do you have anything to add?
I think it would be most clean to remove the prior motion and make a new motion. They have different intents.
yeah, I agree. Commissioner Klaus, I think it's cleaner if you rescind your motion. The second has to agree to that, and then you state your new motion.
I agree.
So do you?
Okay. Yeah, I rescind my initial motion.
Okay, then just restate the motion you'd like to make.
I move to authorize the resolution to go through staff and the PAO's office to come back for final approval by the board.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion on that motion. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
I'm abstaining. So that motion fails, I believe, 2-2. Let's go on to our next item of business. Madam Clerk, what else do we have under Commissioner items? I see two other attachments to our packet.
There should be one other, the letter of support for House Bill 2351, proposed by Commissioner Fournier. I believe the DNR one pager that you were looking at may be related to the previous item that the board took action on, the letter of support.
No, this is not. This is another item Commissioner Mejia asked.
Yeah.
And just to clarify that, so I'm giving testimony on behalf of this bill tomorrow, and I think Commissioner Mejia and I would join with her in saying, does the board want me to testify on behalf of the board, or should I just give my own testimony? This allows DNR to, it authorizes them to gain revenue from natural solutions types of things like carbon markets and stuff. It's been like legally kind of in limbo whether they can do that. It's in line with the, it's in line with the policies that we've been advocating for, which is we want to protect certain parts of Cal State Forest, but we don't want to lose all the revenue to beneficiaries. So we'd like DNR to have the flexibility that the Conservation Northwest Supreme Court decision says they have. It's really clarifying that they have those tools in the toolbox to try to raise revenue. So since I'm going to be giving testimony, this is a DNR bill, and DNR has asked me to testify, which I'm going to do, but since it's in line with our previous advocacy, Commissioner Mejia thought it might be something you would like me to speak on behalf of the board. See Commissioner Grant, Commissioner Fournier, Commissioner Mejia's thumbs. Okay, I will do that tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. That takes care of that one.
Okay.
Let's go to the last thing.
The other one is a letter from the board just stating it's support of House Bill 2351. This is Emergency Responders Protection Act. I have Chair Ornsby's name on this one, but we would also be using it for any relevant House members or committees that this goes in front of. So I had a public hearing, went to executive session. I believe it's going to appropriations next, and we want to make sure that we get our voice out in front of those folks.
Thumb up for me. Missing period at the first paragraph, Madam Clerk.
You get that out.
But yeah. Commissioner Klaus, thumbs up. All right. Any other commissioner items? Commissioner Mejia.
I just want to give just very quick on some legislative updates on some of the bills, the big ones. So House Bill 1743. So this was a bill that was introduced last year, did not pass. It enhances opportunities for community-based providers to deliver healthcare services in carceral settings and improving continuity of care and outcomes for justice-involved individuals. WASAC is supportive of this bill, and so what they're doing right now, WASAC is doing, is they are basically requesting to have pilot counties to participate. I sent in a request to Commissioner Grant, and she is actively working with stakeholders, and will present this item at the Jail Resource Task Force meeting to participate, to see if we could be part of that pilot county group. Lewis and Jefferson counties have expressed interest. Just wanted to give the board a heads up about that one. Another one that I want to bring up is the animal services, which is House Bill 2258. So that was pulled from the agenda before there was even a hearing due to technical and drafting issues. So it will be worked during the interim in coordination with legislative staff. So that is just wanted to give everyone a heads up that it will not be getting heard this session.
Oh, really? It's done?
It was unconstitutional.
Let's see. Next is it was the public defense bill, which we signed a letter in support, but it's House Bill 1592, and we wrote 2 letters of support. Basically, was for the public defense funding. The way the bill has been written now is completely different from, of course, the original version. Basically, the state has said, yeah, we won't start basically adding appropriations into this program until 2033, which would put counties in a very difficult situation. There was a lot of discussion about this at WASAC, and the membership ultimately voted to not continue to support this bill. And so there's still conversations going to continue with the legislature about how we move forward in terms of public defense funding, but you know, basically 2033 with phased in funding is basically what they would continue with, and it was they started very, very low. And their first priority would be through OPD. So there was a lot of, I think, a lot of strong feelings about that one. So just wanted to give the board a couple highlights just of some of the bills that we've kind of been talking about. If there's any information that you need, you know, please. So, okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McHugh. A lot of work going on, and all of us are doing our part, and it's been, you know, it's a fast session, and I appreciate everybody that chips into that effort because it's important. Any other commissioner items before we adjourn? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.